the ThunderCast, Russ Livingood, Katie Hudnall on Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Channel continues to grow, and that's all because of you people. I dropped a you people. You guys are the best. Almost at 730 subscribers. Had another good day on the audio podcast. You can find them wherever you get your audio podcast, but most people are listening to them actually on Apple Podcasts. Please rate and review. Some listening on Spotify. Sincerely appreciated it. Thank you so much. All right, great chance to catch up with the guys from the ThunderCast, Russ Livingood and Katie Hudnall. We talk about Marshall's slow starts. Where has the defense gone? The fascination with Cam Fancher winning ugly, I guess. And Charles Huff maybe moving on to a Power 5 school. Not and then hold on, jump the gun there. On a short list for a Power 5 job. Of course, he certainly deserves it. So lots to do. Long discussion. Let's get to it. It is the guys from the ThunderCast, Russ Livingood and Katie Hudnall on Locked On Sunbelt. Dave Schultz back on another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Always honored to catch up with the guys from the ThunderCast, son of Marshall, Katie Hudnall, and Russ Livingood. Guys, let's talk about this ball game from, this past weekend, 41-35, Marshall. So many questions. I don't know if we have any answers. I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure I saw that one coming the way that it went. First, Russ, let's get your reaction to that game because, at the very least, it was one heck of an entertaining football game. The last thing that ball game was boring.
Yeah, so I was expecting a couple of their receivers that didn't play. I was expecting them to be back from injury, and I was expecting them to try to air it out, and it was not that at all. They broke runs of 66 by the quarterback, and then 69, 70, and 75 also by the running back. And just huge plays. Like all 5 touchdowns were under 1 minute for them. 3 plays was their longest touchdown drive. It was just big haymakers thrown by their running game, and we just missed tackles, and they were in the second level and gone. So it was very, very shocking to me.
Yeah, Katie, that's just not something that we see with Marshall, right? We're just thinking defense, and Callaway had over 230 yards on 11 carries. He was a human. What do they call it? Big play. Yeah. 20 yards or more. He averaged like 21.6 yards a carry.
Yeah, he was a cheat code in this game, right? And not only do you think about defense with Marshall, you think about run defense with Marshall. Right. And credit to Ricky, Ronnie, Russ and I talked about this. They saw something that they liked. They gave it a go. It worked. And any good coach is going to try it again. And it worked again. And you're going to try it again. And it worked again. So a little bit of this falls on our guys, like Russ said, for missing tackles and not being able to take away that little aspect of the game that Coach Ronnie saw. But a lot of it goes to Coach Ronnie for seeing that, his staff seeing that, and those players making the plays, right? We talked about this on our show. They have Division I players too. They have Division I coaches too. So it's not just, our guys are superior and they just caught us slipping. No, it was good on good, and they made plays. Late in the game, Marshall was able to stifle that run game a little bit and force them into the pass. And, 3 interceptions later, and Marshall, I don't want to say escapes because they never relinquished the lead after that 24-21, regaining or taking of the lead. But it was a little closer than most of us in Kelly Green wanted to see. I'll say that. That's for sure.
Well, yeah. So in one game, Marshall was down by 18 and led by 13, all in the same game. And I mentioned on yesterday's episode of Locked On Sunbelt, there were 6 straight possessions of either a score or a turnover. And on one possession, you had the score and the turnover on the same play with the pick six. Mm-hmm. What were you guys thinking that this wouldn't slow down? I was watching, the Cajuns game. The Cajuns game was going so fast against Minnesota. Marshall, South Alabama, and the USC game were all still in the first half when the Cajuns in Minnesota kicked off in the second half. Mm-hmm. How long? You guys know how long that game lasted? Because the Cajuns game lasted less than 3 hours.
I can tell you, I was there in the stadium watching, and I looked down, and it was past 6:30, and we're still in the fourth quarter. So it had been well over 3 hours, and I was like, I thought there was some new rule trying to speed these games up, keep that clock going. Right. But there were an abundance of players down where they had to have official timeouts and that sort of thing that just stretched it out. By my count, there was at least 6 different stoppages due to injury.
Okay. All right. We're talking Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day with the guys from the ThunderCast. All right, Katie, what is up with the Marshals slow starts, right? It's not just against ODU. They had a slow start against ECU, and they had a slow start against SUNY Albany. And I don't know if you guys know about SUNY Albany, but I do, because I'm a SUNY Oswego grad. That used to be a Division III school, and now it's FCS. What is going on with the slow starts in the first quarter, or if not the first half with Marshall?
I don't know, but it doesn't bother me, right? Because this team looks like they're built to win these games. They're undefeated, and whether they're playing from behind or can't get it going for a couple of drives, it just ultimately so far doesn't seem to matter. I wish I knew. I wish we were on the other side of the early long quarterback run for touchdown that we've been the victim of a lot of times this year. But I don't know. It just seems like Rasheen Ali is making the body blows, right, until they get that one extra sliver of daylight, and then he's gone. But we didn't see that against Old Dominion in this game. He still had a really solid game, just under 100 yards, something like mid-80s, and 2 touchdowns. So most fans are going to take that. Russ and I talked about this. We're just spoiled as Herd fans when it comes to Rasheen Ali. We just, just stamp 100 yards and 2 to 3 touchdowns. That's what we expect. And ultimately, like I said, it's not really hurting this Herd. They've come back in fourth quarters of the games this season. They've strung together back-to-back scoring drives to get ahead in games, and now we see what happened against Old Dominion. They were able to go punch for punch and make that big defensive play, make that extra stop, or move the chains one more time to get a win. And these things are character wins to me. This tells me that Marshall can win in a different way. It's not the same old story. It has to go this way or we're going to lose. We've seen them win 3 or 4 different times in 3 or 4 different games this year.
Well, that sounds good, Russ, but I would presume that most Herd fans would agree with KD, except for the fact that the competition is going to get better. It'd be tough to come back against a Georgia Southern. It's going to be tough to come back against App State, and it's going to be tougher to come back against JMU. That's the only concern, right? It's one thing if it's ODU and it's a conference game. It's another thing if it's ECU and Albany, right? Or Vatek, right? You fall behind, or Western Kentucky. Fall behind those teams. That's one thing. I guess Troy was Western Kentucky. But you fall behind Vatek, all right, it's 7-0, no big deal. But the other teams are not on the level of Marshall, whereas, the Sun Belt teams generally are, right? Those are all going to be, at least going into those games, they're all going to be less than, a 1 score. They're going to be less than 7 points favored, whoever's going to be favored in those games, right? And that's what it's going to be with Georgia Southern, App State, and JMU. So, Russ, what do you think? Is it offense just takes a little bit of time to get going? Like, I mentioned yesterday, pitchers like Tom Glavine and Roger Clemens, if you got them in the first inning, you'd be in good shape. But boy, 30 pitches in, if you haven't gotten them yet, good luck, because you're done. Mm-hmm. So, I presume, has Coach Huff addressed it? Because it's a glaring issue. That would be the only glaring issue so far, although we'll get to the defense here in a minute.
I wish I knew, and I wish that I knew, and it was an easy thing that I could say, there it is, now let's fix it. And I'm sure the coaching staff knows infinitely more than me, but I hope that they can know what it is and try to fix it. But I don't think anyone knows. It's just one of these things that we've gotten down early, but much like KD, little bit different spin, we have won in different ways, and we're 4-0, and I would much rather see a team that is 4-0 and knows how to win.
Sure.
And instead of we've been 4-0 and we've cupcake walked to victory in 4 games, and that would mean that when we do find adversity, when we do find ourselves down, we might not know how to come back. Now we already have that confidence to know we're never out of it. this game against ODU was the 4th largest deficit in program history that we came back from, 18 points. And we came back and didn't win it on a last-second field goal or something like that to win by 1 point. We were up and held them from scoring to control the game. So you can see that we can score in spurts. You can see that we can come back, and I love that aspect of what we've had so far in these first 4 games. Wish I knew what it was, Dave, but I don't.
All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll ask the guys, where has Marshall's vaunted defense go, and what are the fans' issues with Cam Fancher? The kid is only 10-1 as a starter for the Marshall Thundering Herd. All right, let's talk a little bit about bird dogs. All right, I got my Yeti-style tumbler. We'll show you that in a second. You know, bird dogs make you look good. Bird dog stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Bird dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better, and they fit way better than the regular shorts that are made of a stiff and restricting cotton. Bird dogs fix this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Bird dogs uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric to keep you cool and dry all day long. Bird dogs are functional for any occasion. Playing golf, you're going out on a date, evening out with the guys, you're working out, whatever the case may be. All right, go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege or enter promo code LockedOnCollege at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you. All right, I did find my Bird Dogs Yeti-style tumbler. This is not the water bottle, but this is the Yeti-style tumbler. I had it at work. I brought a cup of coffee in, and I didn't bring it back with me, so I brought it back today. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's get back to it with the guys from the ThunderCast. We talk about where is Marshall's vaunted defense and what is the deal with the fans and Cam Fancher winning ugly, I guess. It is Locked On Sunbelt. Well, we're talking to the guys from the ThunderCast, Russ Livingood and son of Marshall, Katie Hudnall. All right, so it's not just the offense, right? It's not just the lacking of the offense. It's the defense, right, that the other teams are scoring. So let's go into that. Was there turnover? Because Troy started out a little slow because, I know he's a little guy, but there's something to replace in the NCAA's all-time tackle leader, and that's easier said than done at Carlton Marshall. It took them a couple of games to make those adjustments, but their defense has improved. Where is Marshall lacking defensively, in the first part of the games? And obviously they're making the adjustments because they did a number on Albany in the second half. They did a number on ECU in the fourth quarter. Obviously, down 21-3. They went up, 42-28. So they did a number on ODU. And they got stops against Va Tech when they needed to. Where is it lacking, when they're not playing well? And Katie, where does it get better? Where do the adjustments come from when it is playing well?
I think what we're seeing is these teams that come in and have success early, it's their scripted drives, those first 15 plays or whatever that they've been working on all week. And a lot of teams have success doing that. But yeah, there was a lot of turnover, with the Herd defense, a brand new defensive coordinator this year. Right. And I'm not placing any blame whatsoever on Coach Seymour. I think he's doing a great job. It's just a play here and a play there. We've talked about it. It's the busted coverage or that missed block or that missed tackle that leads to a big play. Otherwise, you have a pretty solid overall performance throughout a game. If they can eliminate those missed tackles, shore up those assignments, somebody makes the right read, a lot of these points go away. We can't magically wave a wand to make them go away. That has to be fixed. But if you do like we do normally and go back and rewatch the game, you can see where it went wrong on certain plays. But overall, if you're like, well, this was a pretty good effort, we just need to keep some of those, big plays from happening. And also, we've gotten in a penchant here to have that costly penalty to keep something going, keep a drive going. And that's usually not a Marshall MO. They're fairly disciplined, particularly on defense. So they're still going to fly around. They're still going to swarm to the football. The pass rush is still really, really good. It's just that there's a piece here and a piece there that's on the sidelines, kind of dinged up. We just had the bye, so we've got to stay healthy to go through 10 straight. This is not something that's easily done. So there's a little bit of figuring it out. There's some new pieces on this defense, but overall, I don't think there's too much really to be concerned about. It's just shoring up the tackling and making the right reads, and all of a sudden, a lot of those points disappear.
All right, we're talking to the guys from the ThunderCast, Russ Livingood and Katie Hudnall, son of Marshall. All right, so it's not on the rundown, but we got to talk about this. It is the Cam Fancher effect. All right, talk about, I'm with Katie on this. I'm a win and move on guy. I could care less how we get there, although I'm still under the belief, to beat the better teams, you got to be more consistent. But he's played very well. He's 10-1 as a starter, right? And yet we still get – I still see people replying to you on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling him, but Cam Fancher or the offensive coordinator or yada, yada, yada. Russ, what is your thoughts about Cam Fancher? Because if you look at the statistics, he's actually, oh my God, surprisingly, he's getting better as the season's going on. Shocker.
Yeah, the game against Virginia Tech was an outlier for him to where it was a decently bad game, below average, right. Only 166 yards. And if you're going to take that game where we win as his worst game of the year, I'll take that all day, every day, because somebody's going to have a bad game every now and then. They're going to overthrow a little bit. What we're seeing from him, 29 out of 35, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 102 on the ground, moving the chains, escaping the sacks is the major thing. We've given up 2 sacks on the year, 2 sacks.
Wow.
And a lot of that is his escapability. He can run, he can maneuver, and he is not the kind of person that immediately starts just tucking the ball and running at the first sign of somebody getting close to him. He moves with his feet, but he keeps it in his throwing hand and is looking down the field, scanning at all times. And with his athleticism, you would think that he would just try to run for more when that happens. But he's not. He's looking down the field. So I think what's important for everyone to realize is this is his first year going through as the number 1 in the offseason. This is his first year of being named the starter and having that on his shoulders and in his mindset. Last year, he knew that he was going to be coming off the bench to do the read option and do the run plays, and everyone else knew that as well. So they could just sit back and try to key on him to run when he came in. He took over last year, led us to turning the season around, 6-1, getting a bowl game victory. What we're seeing is spoiled fans online. Fans is short for fanatics, and everyone wants to see the 300 to 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions out of your quarterback. And there's also I was around when Chad Pennington played. I want to see Cole Pennington be out there because I'm convinced that he's the second coming of his dad, and we're ruining our chances by not having him on the field. That's what we're hearing. That's people are convinced without seeing him throw a pass that he would infinitely be better to come in. And it's not fair to Cole. We want to see Cole succeed as well. We are huge Chad fans. We've spoken to Cole personally on campus. He's a great guy, and I think that he will do great. But you have to play who's ready to play, and I think right now it's Cam Fancher.
Boy, that sounds like a whole new podcast. Pressure on Pennington. I can't imagine what that kid's got to go through. Geez, that's a whole college football series right there. So KD, where has Cam, as Russ mentioned, he was coming in to do one thing last year until he came in to play starting quarterback. Where do you think Cam has improved the most this season?
I mean, can you say everywhere? Because he was known as a little bit of a runner when he would come in. It was a special package of plays, and you're trying to use those legs. He would pass occasionally, but Russ is right. It was the knowing your QB1 all through the offseason, going through spring ball, then the summer camp, and all of that stuff with other guys kind of nipping at your heels. That's what they say. We don't know how really close it was. They bring in a portal quarterback that's experienced, so there's a little bit of an insurance policy there. Something goes wrong, but I just think he's gotten better. Now we saw it in real time last year. He takes over, plays James Madison for his first start on the road, gets a win, and then we see him get better and better and better throughout the last part of 2022. And in the bowl game, Coach Huff said it. He had back spasms. He was not 100%. So you see, if you watch that bowl game, he was not a very effective passer. And that's why it was affecting him. So then you go into 2023, and I think what most fans continually go to, and it's so unfair, is we saw this meteoric improvement from Rakeem Cato from freshman to sophomore year. And if you go back and look at the stats, it's freaking mind-blowing, right? And so I think a lot of folks who have been around for that expect that to happen from year 1 to year 2 of your quarterback, right? But Cam started off a little rough. The game against Albany didn't do him any favors, right? It just fed the fan base to say, see, we knew it. They kind of see what they want to see, but how can you argue with 10-1 as a starter?
That ends the argument. That ends the argument. Well, this and that. He's 10-1.
You would think, right? But people keep going on the what if. Well, what if sooner or later it's going to bite us? Well, sooner or later everybody loses. Sooner or later every team loses. Right. But he hit a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a plateau, but we didn't continue to see that better and better and better. And then we saw it against Old Dominion. The downfield passing had been there all year. People didn't want to see it. And then it was always, well, he's being bailed out by the defense and Rasheen Ali. Is that what happened against Old Dominion? Absolutely not. Cam Fancher took over that game and propelled Marshall to a lead. And then, yes, he had mistakes. Bad interceptions, 2 terrible fumbles, 1 huge hustle play to save a touchdown, which 2 plays later turned into a pick 6 going the other way for the Herd. So he's correcting his mistakes. The problem is the mistakes that he is making are just amplified because they're pretty bad. You know, the interceptions don't look good. It was in the red zone. We gifted a touchdown to East Carolina. So if those things go away, you know, maybe the tune changes a little bit more. But Russ is right. Folks want to play who they want to play. They want to win how they want to win. Personally, I just want to win. Yeah. I just want to win. You know, I want the best 11 on the field. That's it.
And Dave, also too, it is a perception versus reality thing. I put that as a Twitter thread one time. I'll never call it X, by the way. It's Twitter. And,
sure.
And so I put that on there, and I had people saying, "There's no way." See, I went back and watched the game, charted the passes and everything, and someone said, "I would be shocked if he threw the ball more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage more than twice." And I said, well, here's 14 of them. And I said, here's this one, this one, this one, this one. If you go back and watch, everyone is convinced that he's throwing nothing but swing passes to the running back or screen passes to the wide receivers at or behind the line of scrimmage and no further than 5 yards down the field. And he's not. He's hitting crossing routes. He's throwing, past, 20-some yards past the line of scrimmage. And people are forgetting those. And then every time that he throws a wide receiver screen, which has been part of Marshall's repertoire way longer than he has been here at college. Right. Back in the Randy Moss days, you can see all kinds of the times that not just a Randy, but everyone there caught the wide receiver screens, the jailbreak screens. But they see those and go, see, there it is. So it's like premeditated bias. And then again, they're seeing what they want to see.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say that, right? It's not fair to Cole Pennington or Cam Fancher. If you give Cam Fancher, Randy Moss, he'd probably have a lot better numbers, right? Yeah. I know he was really obviously a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I bet you Troy Aikman was bailed out a lot with Emmitt Smith and Jay Novacek during his day when he had to get the 3rd and 6. He's finding the big tight end and not just throwing it downfield to Michael Irvin. All right. All right, one more time out when we come back and wrap things up with the guys from the ThunderCast. Which is a bigger ballgame? NC State, the Power 5 school, or the Sun Belt foe and divisional foe in Georgia State? Also, what about Coach Huff being on a short list for a Power 5 job? That'll be all coming up next, but let me tell you about FanDuel. Snap in action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place just a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. Let's wrap things up with the guys from the ThunderCast, Russ Livingood and Katie Hudnall. We talk about which is a bigger ball game, NC State, the ACC foe, or the divisional opponent in Georgia State. And what about Coach Huff on a short list for a Power 5 job? It's Locked On Sunbelt. let's wrap this up with the ThunderCast. It's Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day with Russ Livingood and Katie Hudnall. All right, another big ball game. NC State got the Wolfpack. Is that a bigger ball game to get Marshall more national media and nationally noticed, or is that ball game against Georgia State bigger because it's in the Sun Belt East, or did some of the bloom come off of the rose at Georgia State the way they looked against Troy this past week?
I'm going to go first, Russ. NC State's the bigger game because it's the next game. That's it.
Oh, no.
Listen to Coach Huff. It's a one.
No cliches here.
No. It's a 1 week season every week. No. He says that we want to go 1-0. Now, in the grand scheme, Georgia State's by far the bigger game.
There you go. That's what I want.
It's the Sun Belt game.
Yes.
But
okay.
NC State, if you go into Raleigh and you get this win, you're going to have a pretty good argument with flirting around that 24-25 spot probably.
Yes.
Because that's 2 ACC wins on your resume.
That's right.
But I got to echo what the coach says. These boys take it 1 week at a time, and that's what's gotten them to 4-0. National stage, yes, it's NC State.
They can take it 1 week at a time, not you, Katie. We don't.
Sun Belt, Sun Belt. The bigger game is Georgia State because they're doing pretty well too, and they're trying to. Looks like they're trying to pack the crowd in there for this game in Atlanta. So we'll see if they're able to do that. But who cares? I don't want to know every week's all I want. I'm going to continue that thing. That's all I want. But yes, in the grand scheme, give me Georgia State. To keep the championship hopes alive in the Sun Belt.
I hear about that. All right, so I did a reverse hashtag always a bright side with South Alabama because I really don't know what their problem is. Like we can't figure out why Marshall starts poorly or slowly. I can't figure out what's going on with South Alabama. They lost like 4 guys and apparently irreplaceable. Those guys were good, but irreplaceable. But a hashtag always a bright side. Maybe Kane Womack is not going anywhere because they haven't lived up to expectations. So with each and every, Marshall win, there seems to be a Big Ten opening there, Russ. Mel Tucker out at Michigan State. I saw people putting odds on Charles Huff. That would be my one concern is that he has this great team and, the big money comes calling at the Big Ten. Your thoughts, Russ?
I think that it's tremendous that Marshall and its coaching staff is doing so well that someone in the Big Ten would want to put them on a short list. I think that says very well about the kind of caliber of coach that we have. I think that we're blessed to have Coach Huff here. I think he does everything the right way. He has built this team to compete with P5s. Our defensive line looks amazing year after year. The size that he's brought in at every position, the speed that he's brought in at every position, and they are character players. They are men of great character that he's bringing in. So I think it's an honor that he is, our school, our alma mater. The coach that is there is getting looked at to be one of these, P5. I hate that term, but they are looking at our coach. I hope that he stays here forever. I hope that he retires here. He's not gonna. Someone's gonna take him from us. And whatever it is, I wish him nothing but luck moving forward. But while he's here, he's our guy, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to know that eventually it's probably going to happen, that he's going to move on to a bigger school with bigger resources. And anytime that someone wants to be the best in their profession, they should always want to move up and take on new challenges and everything. So I will be happy for him wherever he goes. But while he's here, I'm not worried about any kind of distractions and everything, because how many times have we seen the media or fan bases or whatever say, here's the next coach, and it's never that person.
Right.
It's never that person. So if it is, it is, but I don't think it'll happen in the middle of the season. And I think that if it does happen, it happens. But that just amplifies Marshall even more, that, hey, Marshall had a coach here and a system here and a program here that someone in the P5 said, hey, that's worth going after. So,
all right. So we won't even ask who would be the next Marshall coach, but KD, most importantly, does Coach Huff, when, and maybe it's not this year, gets a P5 job, does he take your phone call to come back on the podcast, or does he go new phone, who dis?
I don't know, man. I would hope that he would like to talk to us another time or two, even if he's patrolling a different sideline. You know,
Could be still wearing green. Could still be green and white.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good relationship with Coach Huff. He's been very generous with his time for us, and we are always very appreciative of that because, after all, Russ and I say it all the time, we're just two knuckleheads that talk into microphones, you know. So to be embraced by the admins and the coaches and players at Marshall is pretty cool. And, you know, we try not to make any enemies. You know, we try to put out the best that is the herd. So I hope he would take our call or at least answer a DM.
Right. Probably at least one time. Time. All right. Let's wrap it up. What is coming up on ThunderCast, guys?
Well, I don't know when this will go out, but we just dropped our recap for Herd Homecoming. It's up now. And then we have a preview for the NC State game coming up in a day or so. And then, I don't know, it seems like we get busier and busier every week, Russ. I know I'm forgetting some stuff, but if you've got anything cocked and loaded, you might as well tell Dave because I can't look past Thursday.
During football season, Dave, we do a recap show of the game before, and then later that week we do a preview of the next game. It would just be too long, as long-winded as we are and as in-depth as we go and covering every single sport, not just football. Mm-hmm. Our shows are long, so we can't do a recap and a preview in the same show. Otherwise, it'd be a 3-hour show. So, two a week is what we're getting right now.
Well, don't look now, guys, but Sunbelt Media Days for basketball is in a couple of weeks, and that means basketball is tipping off in just over a month. So we're getting going on that. Want to thank Russ Livingood and Katie Hudnall, son of Marshall, from the ThunderCast, hopping on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Thanks so much, guys, and continue to enjoy the football and go Herd, I guess.
Go Herd. Thanks, Dave.
Go Herd. Appreciate you.